That's annoying. I need to figure that out. No one's going to come back now. Oh dear. One person? Hey. Hey game, how's it going? Hopefully the people that were here before come back. My stream just kaput. That's my fault. I know that it does that. I don't think anyone's going to come back. Oh, we'll see. If they do, they do. If they don't, it doesn't matter. Not the end of the world. Oh dear. Don't know how I can sort of tell everybody that it's back. Not easily. There's a few people coming back. Good. I guess well, I stream and record. I do everything from Linux, and I guess this is part of the problem. If my screensaver comes on, it sort of just totally disrupts my audio and my video sync. Hopefully some people come back. If not, no worries. Hey you guys, I saw that question. I was actually answering it as I was offline, so not totally smart of me. There are a few. There's none as big as those though that I've become aware of though. So I'm very wary of anything like any kind of free hosting thing, simply because of that reason they go down. Whereas I'm just such an advocate of like getting your own VPS, and if you pay if you pay a few dollars a month for it, it's so much less likely that the service is going to go away. So honestly, DigitalOcean has its own app platform, which is very similar to Heroku now. It just costs a few dollars a month, and that's all there is to it, I'm afraid. I don't really use the free services, to be honest. Hey Florian, how's it going? How do you handle iframe? So what you need to do is you need to, because an iframe is basically a website embedded into a website, you need to just go onto your inspect element and find the URL for the actual iframe, and then you can grab that. That's what you need to do. When is it worthwhile to request API quota increases? So hang on, I'm gonna sneeze. Sorry. Oh, I couldn't find the mute button quick enough. So you've got an API that you're using, you're pulling data from. I'm guessing maybe you might be paying for it, or if you're not, maybe you're. And I would always. Honestly, if the data is available from an API, I would do almost everything I could to make sure I got it from there, simply because it's so much more reliable. It might not be better because, you can be really specific with the information of what we want when we scrape it directly from a front end. But from the API, they won't, especially a paid API, they won't change it without telling everybody, so you have time to actually go in and change what you need to do. And obviously all the data comes back as JSON as well, so it's much less data needed. I would, if you're using an API for something already and you need a bit more, I would definitely go to them and say, hey, I'm doing this, I need more, this much more, what can you do for me? And if it's a service that you pay for already, I'm sure they'd help you out. They should do anyway. Ooh. Any syntax? I don't think I could write it out for you right now. What editor are you using at the moment? I have almost completely transitioned into NeoVim. And for me, it's better. I'm going to do a video on it because I want to I want to tell people that, like, because let's be honest, you know, there's a lot of people that are really popular in the sort of dev online community. Is that a thing? If it is, I'm not part of it. Then that are using that sort of thing now have always been using it, and I want to make a video. I'm going to sort of talk about who I think should and when I think you should. It made sense for me, and I've picked up the sort of most of the basic commands pretty quickly, and I prefer it. I prefer it. It just feels more natural. But there is more learning to do. But then, isn't there always? Hardest part is getting it configured. The hardest part is learning how you want it to work, rather than getting it configured. Getting it configured is quite easy if you just follow the online steps. I've used probably PyCharm before that, which is kind of like the polar opposite. I liked PyCharm because I liked the autocomplete from IntelliJ. Hey Tina B, how's it going? I liked IntelliJ. I never really liked VS Code that much, not because it was bad, just because I don't know, it just didn't it felt like I needed to configure it, because I didn't like some of the auto, not the what's it called, where it comes up and tells you what you can do with it. That never seemed as good to me as PyCharm, so that's why I use PyCharm. I actually had to do a project recently, and I had to go back to PyCharm, which is really sad because I couldn't quite do it quickly enough in NeoVim yet, because I didn't quite have all the motions down. But I'm almost there. So this is probably, honestly, I'm probably 2 months in to NeoVim. Do you use Puppeteer? No, I don't. Isn't that just a port of Puppeteer, which is JavaScript? Puppeteer. I've always just assumed it was just browser, control thing, like the rest of them. Let's have a look. There you go. You can see as well. There you go. This one kind of got lost in the wayside, I think. It's a shame because I feel like we need more options. There's another one as well. Shit, I can't remember what it was called. I made a note of it. When it comes to browser automation, I'm pretty much always use Playwright. Is what it is, I suppose. Well, the one that I wish that they would actually carry on developing and work through is Splash, because I really like the kind of rendering service HTTP API type thing, because it's so useful, because you can just have it running and you can just sort of access it from your network or anywhere. That's what I kind of wish, but that's another one that's got left behind a bit, to be honest. Try VS Code with R. I guess it's not great for everything. I never know. I've never looked at R. It's quite data-y kind of, isn't it? I think VS Code's great for the vast majority of people, generally speaking, and the Python extension is good. Let me see. See if I can explain I've got it installed still. Sometimes I used to use it for code demos, just because, you know, it was more relatable. But now, now most people just ask me what editor I'm using. I find it more interesting. So I actually, hang on 1 second. I can show you this in just a sec. I am not a good streamer. So I think I configured it like this, so it was easy to sort of see. And let's move you over. But I found before I configured it, doing things like, you know, saying, look at the size of that list, and it's straight up. That was just, and if you're trying to, let's say I was trying to record this for a demo, I mean, that just gets in the way so bad. So I had to stop because, like, I can't have this. It doesn't need to be this big. I know my text is this big. That was the main problem I had. Otherwise, this is a cool theme, by the way. I think it's Sonokai. But, you know, if you got like small text, I think it's fine. It's just not for me. I don't want to have to. I like opening my editor up from the terminal because I use my terminal so much for everything now anyway. Any thoughts on Emacs? I've never used Emacs, I'm afraid. Never used it. I don't think I ever will. It's going to be... Do you know what? I guess it was all the hype around NeoVim that made me want to learn it. But I also looked at Helix as well when it came out, which was pretty cool. But I just didn't see the point in it. Because Vim is on every Linux machine everywhere. So like you might as well learn it. Because if you're doing something on a VPS, it's a Linux machine, you got Vim, you can just carry on. For social media websites. You can use Selenium with Scrapy if you want to. You can put it in as the request pipeline thing and it will work just fine. I tend to stay away from social media sites really, and fortunately most of my work doesn't really involve it, only because I don't know, it's just a pain in the ass for like no real gain generally. Not for me anyway, because I do like data sets of mostly product stuff, so I try and stay away from Facebook, Instagram and LinkedIn. So yeah, but you can use Selenium with Scrapy. It's called Scrapy Selenium or Scrapy Playwright. They'll do the job for you. It's generally the way to go, I think, if you're trying to achieve something like that. Definitely. Hey, how's it going? Rahabi. I can't pronounce your name. Hope that was good enough. Martin, how's it going? Thanks, man. I appreciate it. After having done YouTube for like 3+ years, over 3 years, I think. That's a long time, man. That's a long time. That's a lot of videos, not all of which are good as well, let's be honest. I should probably remake the bad ones. Or not, who cares? Let's have a look. Oh yeah, I can see some good ones already. 2 years. 3 years. Don't watch any of these ones, they are terrible. This one was good, but these ones are awful. Surprising how difficult it is to make a coding video. You take a while to get used to being on camera. You're like a robot beforehand. So yeah, that's a lot of videos. So it's nice to know people still watch them. I'm not really sure what you mean about how to get the real link when they use a shortened link. I don't really understand, I'm afraid. Don't you just go to that shortened link and doesn't it just show you the real link? I don't know, sorry. WP safe link. Alright, let me look it up. Yeah, no. You can sort that out. I'm not going near that. Hi, Patrick Bateman. That's a name I recognise. Thanks for the kind words, man. I appreciate it. Right, I'm going to be right back. Just 2 seconds. I've got to go, Bob. Sorry about that. Right, back. Whew. Hey Adrian, how's it going? Thanks man, appreciate it. Have I tried Chrome extensions? Probably not, man. I didn't see the point in them, to be honest. I'm always just thinking about how I can do it rather than relying on some extension someone's built. And I don't really subscribe to the whole no code thing. I'm sure it's good. I'm sure it's like works for some people, but not so much for me. Hey Mohammed, thank you very much. That's really kind of you. Appreciate it. You're now Nightbot. Okay, let me see if I can push the like button. No, there's no like button, I'm afraid. Do I work as... Oh shit, closed everything. Do I work as a freelancer? Yeah, sometimes. Less so recently though, just because like I still have a 9 to 5. I do YouTube and I try and work freelance on the side. It just became a bit difficult. So I'm more picky about the projects I take. I'd much rather be working than doing nothing. So like I don't mind spending the hours, but it's a bit more difficult. Do I have any book recommendations? Do you know what? I don't think there really are any good ones. I haven't read any at all myself. I basically just learned myself as I needed as I went along. So I'm afraid I don't. Let me know if you find one that's good, but I don't think there are any real relevant up-to-date ones, to be honest. Scraping is my passion project. Yeah, I kind of fell into it, to be honest. So I started my YouTube channel to like hold me accountable to learning to code, and then I ended up, you know, like being able to do work for people, so I just took it on, to be honest. Hey Carly, you make a good move. Perfect, man. Brilliant. That's great. So I'm assuming you're going to send me your email address and I can send you an invoice for my cut for teaching you everything you know. Kidding. It's certainly out. It's certainly there. Do you know what? Actually, I'm going to finish my conversation. I'm going to finish what I'm about to say on this. I've just got to pick up my coffee. Hang on. Hey, oh, that's fantastic, mate. That's brilliant. I'm really chuffed. Hey, that's cool, man. I really appreciate it. Oh, that's great. That's really good for you, mate. That's really good for you. If I can help anybody, to be honest, my goal was just to help people learn how to code or just learn some other things about, what coding can do for you. So if you can pick it up and you can earn some money on the side, or even because I know that's quite a lot of money in other countries, so that's brilliant, mate. How far is web scraping legal? I subscribe to, if it's in the public domain, it's fine. Which is why I don't touch things generally don't touch things that require a login unless it's for personal usage. So if someone comes to me and says, hey, can you get me all this data? Here's the login. I generally go no, because that's a grey area, because when you sign up to a service, there's loads of small T&Cs that you subscribe to. Whereas if anyone can go on that website and see that information, it's fair game. That's my opinion. Thibaut, I hope I pronounced your name right. I'm not very good at that, but hey man, appreciate you dropping by. Love to see more automation with cloud database. I'm scraping to API. So, I think I know what you mean. Do I know what you mean? I was talking about earning money from it, wasn't I? That's what everyone wants to know about, don't they? As long as there are a couple more questions, and I'll come back to that. Do I have a public repo with Scrapy framework? No, unfortunately, from my experience, scraping doesn't really work like that. Unless the only way it can work like that is if you're doing a load of websites that are all built upon the same framework, like Shopify, for example. I mean, you could easily write one script that would get all the information from any Shopify store you gave it, because they basically just give it to you. But if it's mix and match, it's too difficult because all the selectors will be different. Not too difficult because you can kind of scaffold something, but it's just not that easy. Hello. One question I have about several web scraping projects using requests: is there a comparative advantage that will make Scrapy worth learning? Yes. 1 second. Hey, Christoph, how's it going, man? Nice of you to come back and join in on these sporadic streams that I do. I appreciate it, man. Happy New Year. Thanks for dropping by. I hope you're doing well. I think if you're at the point where you're doing a lot of web scraping, Scrapy is 100% worth learning. It's a framework. It's it's built around how you can do things. There is a slightly steeper learning curve, but not a huge one once you understand the Python concepts. You can make it use requests through just normally, or you can do it through Selenium, you can do it through Playwright, you can do all sorts of cool stuff, and it will handle a lot of things for you. It just takes a little bit more understanding to get the best out of it, because you need to work out how it does everything. But if you already know all of that, 100%. There was once a full-time sort of data, I don't know what they called it, data, they didn't call it web scraping, they had a different name for it, that I saw came up in the UK, and they're very rare because that sort of thing doesn't really exist here. it's always part of something else. But anyway, that was like managing full-time Scrapy spiders. So that's the way to go. Not that there's loads of work out there, but it's the best one in my opinion. Are you familiar with reverse engineering any anti-bot systems? Yes and no. Only really the really basic like JavaScript tests that they put out, but that only browsers can really answer, that you can kind of fake and mimic. That's it really. That becomes a bit more of a grey area, to be honest. I'm catching up on questions. I can see some down below. I will get to them. You think LinkedIn versus HireQ kind of set the standard? Yeah. The only thing that I worry about is that if it comes down to like a massive corporation versus, you know, like a smaller company or maybe an individual, you're never going to win because you don't have the manpower for the lawyers and shit. I don't think you need to worry though. How would you scrape a website where you IP blocked? You can either unplug your router and plug it back in if you have a dynamic IP and that will give you a new one and you're unblocked, or you can use proxies. You don't really want to use VPNs. VPN does a similar sort of thing, but yeah, restart router. VPNs do the same sort of thing, but they won't work because almost all of them, the IPs are just so abused and known about that you just got no chance. Mostly hackers do social engineering tricks like Grayson. Yeah, you got it. How to bypass capture? Try staying away from the captures is the only thing I can really advise. If you're hitting them hard, you can do capture solving services, but I don't really know any, and I'm not really going to recommend any. Capture's a pain in the ass. I'm not going to lie. If you hit too many captures, it's really not worth it. What's your best life hack to find hidden endpoints? Well, that's a really interesting way of asking that question. Life hack. So if you're looking for hidden endpoints, the best thing you can do is don't just focus on that one page where that data is. Use the whole site. Keep looking through everything. Click on every link until you find till you can find something come up, and reverse engineer the API from there. And use like common keywords. So if it's products, use API/v1/products or whatever it looks like, and you can kind of figure it out from there. And one thing that I found that I mentioned recently on a Reddit post that I answered is to look in the JavaScript files for the website, because sometimes you can find information in there that will help you out. A lot of the time it's obfuscated though, and that's a whole different kind of kettle of fish, but make sure you check in there as well. Any MySQL content in the future, I don't really use MySQL. Building a database with a script, yeah, there will be some stuff like that. It's difficult to make that, I'll be honest, it's difficult to make that kind of content interesting. I suppose I definitely want to make something along the lines of building a data set. It's just difficult because, you know, like, it's how to present it and what data to use to build that data set with, because I don't want to like show, not that I want to show the techniques and the sort of methods as opposed to the end result. Does that make sense? Is Scrapy easy to automate and out on a Raspberry Pi Ubuntu server? Yeah, it is. It's very easy. In fact, if you're not doing very much on there, all you need to do is run a cron job on going to the and running the spider command. So but if you've got it in a virtual environment, you might need to run it through that virtual environment. If you Google cron job in your virtual environment, it will show you how, but you can basically just do it on one line. It will just run your Scrapy, crawl, spider, and then whatever. It's pretty simple. Can I compare Go to Python performance running multiple threads? I'd love to do stuff like that, but I really feel like I've got inadequate knowledge, to be honest. I started doing a video the other day comparing the performance of Python frameworks, just because everyone, I don't know, maybe not everyone, but I feel like people get hung up on how fast things are, and this is unrelated to web scraping, I suppose. And I was like, I don't think it really matters. So I thought, well, I'll see how many, and even the slowest one that I managed to do was still something like 5,000 requests a second. It's like, if you're making a website that you're expecting to handle more than 5,000 requests per second, then shit, you need a team. You can't, not just by yourself. Anyway, the long and the short of it was that Go absolutely smashed Python out of the water for that, like by no insignificant margin. And I stopped there because I was like, I don't know whether what I'm doing is correct, so I don't want to go telling people, oh, this is, and I know generally for that sort of thing Go is quicker, right? Let's be honest. But I don't know if the test that I was doing was fair and fair and comparable. So I've kind of I parked it for a bit. But I will tell you, the fastest responding framework that I found for Python was Sonic, by a considerable way, faster than Fast API. But that was in my test, so who even knows whether that's true or not. Past websites with Rust or Golang, is it possible? Certainly is. I can't talk about Rust because I don't know any Rust, and it looks complicated as shit. But in Golang, you can use Collie, which is a web scraping framework. If you understand the basic of Go, like me, you'll get it, and it's pretty good. It's pretty quick, works well. I like it. I've done one video on it. I want to do more, but I don't know if people will bother watching it. How old were you when you started coding? Officially, I started when I was 17, and then I stopped when I was 18 or 19. I did it at school, and then I didn't pick it up again till I was about 32, 33. I'm 36 now. Is PyEnv better than Conda? Unless you are a data, I don't like Conda. I don't like it. I don't like things that take over your environments like that. If you are a data analyst and you literally do that, then I can see why you would use Conda. But if you're writing Python scripts to do stuff, I wouldn't use it. Learn to control all your own environments with PyEnv is one. Just env is one, like Python 3, Python-MV, env. And if you're going to go a bit further and you're going to make packages, Poetry looks pretty cool, but I only have limited experience with that. I always just use Python, what's it called, venv. I just do this. Let me type it. I just do that. And I used to use venv for the name as well. And it's Python 3 because I'm on Linux. If you're on Windows, it's probably not one. Yeah, 0.001 versus 0.1 seconds is not meaningful different, but 1 versus 100 is. Totally, absolutely. Mika, that's totally right. And that's why I kind of put the thing down, because I don't know really. Because you hear people like, I think once you get to the real cutting edge and you're writing tools that have to be super performant for various reasons because they're being used in that way, then it matters. But if you're making a web app for someone, it doesn't make any difference, man. As long as it loads up quick enough that the user doesn't go away. And once you get into that really tiny margins as well, you're going to be hamstringed by your I/O operations anyway. So there you go. Cormac, sorry, I missed that, man. Yeah, that's great. Web scraping car prices. That sounds like a cool project. I've done stuff like that before. Really appreciate it, mate. I'm glad. This is going pretty well, I think. How long we've been going for? Where does it say that? Look at my stats. Can't see it. 35 minutes plus the other ones. GitHub Actions. Yeah, everyone keeps telling me to try GitHub Actions. I haven't tried it yet, to be honest. Again, it kind of falls under my my realm of, I know it's GitHub, If it's free, I worry that it's going to go away. I won't though, because it's GitHub. I just so used to using what I use, to be honest. I'm sure it's good though. It's definitely worth learning how to use the Linux operating system though, if you don't already. GitHub Actions is really slow. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. But you know, if you have like scraping code that you just run overnight, probably doesn't matter. Can I talk about Cloudflare bypassing? So there's there's a few different levels of like Cloudflare protection. The basic ones are a bit more easier to break. The hard ones are just really not that hard. Are really not that easy to break. So the basic ones are just a JavaScript test on your browser. So you have to either load up a browser that will pass it, or you can use Cloud Scraper, which will help too. The more complex tests are a bit more difficult. Can I do a tutorial on how to build a website? As my videos already understood how. Oh. Well, in that case, as you asked so nicely, yes, I'm going to do that. Actually, I'm thinking about live streaming it. I'm going to build like. Sorry, I'm just fiddling. I'm going to build like a basic price comparison website, and we'll use, I don't know, I was thinking about using Fast API because it's pretty popular, and then just like we'll have a basic templated front end and an API endpoint that we can push data to. I thought that might be quite cool. Otherwise, to be honest, if I'm going to build something that's actually going to be used by people or for a client, that it doesn't have to be like cutting edge speed, because let's be honest, I can't really build that anyway. I'm going to use Flask or Django just because it's so much easier to set up, and you get the auth, all the auth stuff is all done, because that's the worst. You don't want to write it yourself and mess up the authentication and authorization. Using Selenium has been painful because all the time I used to manually inspect each element. Yeah. What I tend to do is I just use the browser, I load it up, I send the HTML back, and I just pass it using something that I'm used to. But yeah, you still have to do all that. As a front-end developer, I use UUIDs. Yeah. How can I select them into... Not entirely sure what you mean, I'm afraid, Kadir. How do I select them? Not entirely sure what you mean, sorry, man. How do we scrape a website that says checking a browser for 5 seconds? Yeah, that's Cloudflare. Try it with, use Selenium, but go ahead and find Selenium Stealth. Try that, that should work. That's Cloudflare though. Oh, there you go. Undetected Chrome driver library, same sort of thing. It's the same kind of thing. All the tutorials seem very simple. Yeah. So there's a reason for that. Generally speaking, tutorials that are about advanced topics don't get any views, so people don't bother making them. That's why all of the popular tutorials are low-level beginner stuff, mine included, because that's where the audience is. Once you get past that point in Scrapy, though, it becomes quite intuitive, and you can just use the documentation to fill in the more complicated stuff. That you can do the header manipulation and stuff in there as well. That's why I'd still recommend, like, if your Python is decent, you should pick it up pretty quick, to be honest, I think. And I mean, like, even if it's just intermediate Python, it should be fine, because it's all just classes and stuff. It should be straightforward. Cloud Scraper doesn't work anymore. Oh dear. Flare Solver. I've not heard of that one. How to send the HTML back. So I can't remember what the command is. Let me see if I can find it for Selenium. Hang on, let me look. It's page content, I think, in... is it page content? It's page content in Playwright, I think. So, I can't remember what it is in Slip, but it's page content, and what that is basically just... So, Selenium renders the page, and then you can send all of that content, that HTML back, and you can pass it with like BS4 or something like that. Beautiful Soup or Selectolax. It's quite straightforward. It's one of the more common ways of doing it, I think, because I don't like passing the information in Playwright. It's a bit clunky. ID and class values changing each... Oh, I see. That's a bit more difficult. What I tend to do is you can try indexing it by just finding all of it, or depending on what information you're looking for, you might be best off just saving the whole page and using regex to get that information if it keeps changing. But if it keeps changing like that, there should be like it's probably being obfuscated by the backend. Yeah. It's a bit more difficult. It's hard to say. You have to kind of look at it on a case-by-case basis. Say, Troy, Happy New Year. I'm glad you found my videos helpful. Do I recommend Selenium Stealth to you? Don't know. Everyone just use Selenium Stealth. Let me find your question. How automate things? How can I bypass it? Send the header through Selenium. So you can. I'm sure it's quite easy to set the headers in Selenium, I think, or it should be. Yeah, I work in Playwright these days, I'm afraid, not Selenium. Yeah, you could always try Selenium Stealth as well. I don't know. Khaled would learn to love scraping. Where do I start? On my channel, I watch every video from start to finish, including all the adverts. I'm only joking. Where do you start? It depends on how good you are with programming to start with. If you only know the basics of programming, then start with like understanding. So one of the main things I see beginners get tripped up about is that they watch a tutorial and they're like, okay, that's how you do it, and they go off to a different website, but the problem is that other website doesn't work in the same way as the one in the video, so you get nothing. So it's about understanding what sort of website you're looking at to understand what methods for web scraping could potentially work. But if you want to start getting results right away, I would look at using the method of, I think it was in my last video, where you use Playwright to load up the page like Selenium, and then you capture the page content, and then you pass that page content. But make sure you print that content out first, or save it to a file so you understand what you're looking at. So when you pass through it, if you don't find what you're looking for, you can go to the file and you can say, well, it's not in the file, and then you can start to work out why it wasn't in the file and where you've gone wrong, or what, maybe not where you've gone wrong, or where it is different. There's a lot to start with. It's not too complicated, but there's a lot. Where to start data science or ML? There's loads of good data science like YouTubers and stuff out there. Honestly, like it depends what you want to achieve. It depends what you want to achieve, right? So I used web scraping as a kind of a gateway into obviously people asking me to get data for them, and also into connecting programs up, because obviously through scraping I learned how to manipulate data from the web, and that turned into APIs, and then that turned into like working with people's APIs, getting data for them that way, and then moves on to, you know, connecting two systems up via their APIs with like a connector. If you want to do data science and ML, that's quite different, because you got to think about like scraping's getting the data, and then like ML and data science is just working out what it is with it. What I always thought sounded quite cool for data wise, I think what I would probably look into do is a data engineer, which is more moving the data around and making sure it's in the right places and sort of sorting it out that way. But that's a lot of SQL work as well. I think I'd find that more interesting rather than working out what the data tells me. Although one of my friends is a data analyst, and I always thought it might be quite interesting if I could, like, you know, just pin him down and have a chat with him about working with data in the real world. Think people might enjoy that, or maybe I can bribe him with a few tins of lager or something. Going further to scrape more dynamic pages. Oh, okay. Yeah, so you got a few options. You can either render the page out using a automated browser solution like Playwright would be the one I would go to now, or you can, if you can reverse engineer how the site works, you can find the backend API that they're using, and then you can work out what headers you need to use to be able to mimic that request, and you can just get the JSON data back directly. I would look at those two options. And if you're quite comfortable with Python, I would definitely look at using Scrapy, because it can do everything and it's just got everything handy for you. You can use Playwright with it as well, or Selenium. I love using R for data analysis. Yeah, I mean, like, that's what it was built for, right? I don't know any R though. I don't think I'm going to be learning it anytime soon either. Thanks, Clyde, man. I appreciate that. Or you can choose to be a software engineer as well. Or you can do anything. You can just choose web scraping as a few personal projects to learn whilst you're building up your portfolio, and then you can go on and be any kind of developer that you want, assuming you learn all the necessary things. My input as a data analyst is the most major things like SQL and data manipulation. Yeah, that's what I thought. In order to serve the data accordingly. Yeah, I think that sounds correct to me. Sounds me on the data analytics community discredits people. Really? Oh dear. I don't really associate with that sort of thing. So that's a shame if that happens. I think you should be judged on your abilities rather than anything else. Doesn't matter how you got them. And also, in your area, that's a shame. I'm sorry, man. And also, if obviously when you're self-taught, you're going to have some holes, but you know, in your knowledge. But you know, with a little bit of help, people can help you fill those holes in of that knowledge. Kind of crawlers Google use. Yeah, I'd love to sit down with a Google engineer who knows about their sort of crawling programs and walk me through how they do it. That'd be pretty cool. One day, maybe. Hey, Rick. They can be. Do you know what? I'd usually recommend Playwright and things like that, because a lot of people, not everyone, and certainly not everyone in this chat, but a lot of people that ask me are at the beginning of their journey and they want results, and they're generally the easiest way to get them, because you can work on all those JavaScript websites and you can easily see, you can control the browser and you can easily see it like doing the work for you, which is pretty cool. I started with that as well, to be honest, and the only downside is it's really difficult to scale, because I mean, try opening Chrome with like 100 tabs, it just falls apart. That's where like the different techniques come in. Let's not forget all of the other skills that we pick up along the way as well. Learning about how the web works, learning how to work with data in general, touching lots of different ways to get things done. Works when I put headless to false. What's Jira? I've had a few that I've had to have headless as false to work. I never really looked into it. It was always small jobs and I was like, oh, it doesn't matter. Let's just get it done. Like I said, the end result is generally what matters to me. It fails and I've headless true. Yeah, there must be some reason. There must be like a reason for that. I wonder what it is. I never looked into it though. Any AI tools to make web scraping easier? I don't really use AI, to be honest. I would just find... I don't know how I feel about AI, to be honest. I guess it has its place. Scraping data is just... It's always a bit more unique for different sites, so it's a bit more difficult to just kind of like make something work, unless it's like one of the major sites, I suppose. Can I do like a cookbook? Yeah, I've thought about. Yeah, I've got that on my list of things to do. I've got that on my list of things to do. I did the tools that I use recently, and I'm going to do the methods and techniques as well. I will make sure that I get it done. It's hard. I don't want to go. I'll try to go into as much detail as possible. It's just that thing though, where it's like, if it's too specific, it just excludes a lot of people, which means people don't really watch. But I've got like, I think maybe 5 or 6 pretty solid methods that I go to first before I start poking around in all sorts of other shit, which I'll make out there. Yeah, absolutely. Code gets too specific for each website. Yeah. What's the best way to find scraping jobs? It's really difficult. There isn't an easy way, to be honest. It's a case of when there are lots of people that could do the job for you. It's difficult to find the clients. I've had most of mine through like word of mouth, just because I did a good job for a few people. And also I've fixed quite a lot of ones that other people have written that were just had too many holes in. Things like proper error handling and making sure that the data's intact before the program crashes because something went wrong. So I fixed a few like that as well. It's not easy to get jobs like that though, because What do I think of the Cobalt Intelligence channel? Like an American clone of me. Well, maybe I can go steal some of his ideas then. Let's go have a look.
Do you like?
Good. I'm glad that other people are doing this. Hey, John. How's it going? Nice of you to drop by. There you go. I need to give you one of these. Oh, I can't do it. Hang on. There we go. You can be a moderator for being a long-time supporter. The first thing you do is try and scrape the ideas. Whose ideas? Scrape my ideas, or just generally? Oh right, well I did. Yes, Sorry, I understand. Hey, you try thinking up an idea for your 161st video. Just kidding. There's not many people that do web scraping on. Cheers, Nat Cole, man. See you later. Hopefully, I'll catch you next time, whenever that might be. There needs to be more people that do this sort of thing, because the more people there are, the more information's available. You know, the more it pushes everybody, that sort of thing. You need to have your own like take on it, though. You can't just like copy. Yeah, I hope your project's, I hope it's coming along nicely. I remember we talked about it a bit before. That must have been a few months ago. I had to look around actually whilst I was awake last night when I should have been asleep. I had to look around for like web scraping podcasts, but there wasn't really anything. There was only ones, you know, from like the companies that are trying to sell their products. I thought about it, but I don't know if I want to take on. I don't know if I want. I'd need to combine it with something, and I'd need to find someone to do it with, because I don't think I can take on the extra work at the moment. Can I explore more Playwright using Python? Yeah, I can do. I was thinking about making a little bit more content on just like generally automating stuff with Playwright, because like if you think most people that have general 9-to-5 jobs are clicking on things in a browser and doing things, and I might help those people out. Yep, same one. Yeah, I remember. Cool. Well, I hope it's going well. 2,300 hours in Switzerland. It's 2,200 hours in the UK. Python APIs just... Yeah, I think so. I think it is too. I've never felt like I was at a disadvantage using Playwright with Python, which is pretty cool. It's always nice when there's official like documentation and official support for it all. And there's the Playwright Python docs seem pretty decent as well. Right, well, I think that's about an hour plus the bits that I did at the start when I broke it all. That's probably another 15 minutes. That's a bit of sci-hub. Yeah. There's always a challenging part, isn't there? It wouldn't be a good project if there wasn't. Safari specific stuff? Oh, I don't know. I have a Mac, but I don't use Safari. Can I help you scrape Google? I'm going to copy all the data from Google. All of it? That could be difficult. I don't know what some things that Mac people do regularly, though. I don't know. I know you probably didn't mean the question like that, but it's kind of funny. Well, I'm going to go now, though. But thank you very much for everyone hanging out and asking me questions. Rick, I appreciate it, man. That was really nice. John, nice to see you again. Hands on, that's gone already. I know you were joking. It's all good. I'm assuming... great second about, yeah, good to see you. Daniel, thank you for dropping by. Christoph, if you're still here or if you're gone, thanks for stopping by again. See you soon. Milton, thanks for dropping in. I'm done at the moment, mate, but maybe I'll catch you next time. There's Christoph. Thanks a lot, guys. And thank you. I'm really sorry, man. Your name comes up in Cyrillic. I can't pronounce it, but you've asked a good few questions and it's been really helpful. I really appreciate it. So thank you very much. And I will catch you guys another time. Soon. I always say that. Soon. Bye-bye.